what America was and what it can become. This is Liberty Town Hall.
And it's Liberty Town Hall. I'm Greg Marshall. That's Glenn Wilson. We're going to talk today about one of the most controversial issues in science and certainly in the political realm as well. It has went both directions. Global warming. Is there a cover-up? We're going to look into the details of it today. There's a lot to talk about here, and I don't think we're going to get to all of it, but we're going to at least give you an overview of where the latest science is and the latest research. Not all the time are they the same. You'll find out full details as we continue. I'm Greg Marshall with Glenn Wilson. We'll return to the Liberty Town Hall.
And welcome back to Liberty Town Hall. We're joined by Wayne Brillhart. Wayne's here to talk about CO2 and global warming. Wayne, how you doing today, sir?
Real good, thank you.
CO2, where are we at with it? What's going on? Is it a problem right off the bat? Let's ask that right off the bat. What's the problem with CO2?
Well, the problem with CO2 is we may not have enough of it.
Wait a minute. I'm being told that CO2 is a problem for global warming. Why would anybody need CO2?
Well, for one thing, people generally like to breathe oxygen-rich air. And
yeah, that's good.
Production of oxygen by the plants. Plants need carbon dioxide to survive. That is their food.
Right.
They need the carbon dioxide to produce the oxygen for us.
Plants breathe in the carbon dioxide and exhale oxygen, as it were.
That's correct. It's a process called photosynthesis, and when the sun shines on the leaves, there's a reaction between the CO2 and oxygen, and carbohydrates are produced for the plant, and oxygen is released. So basically, the plants take the carbon out of the CO2 and release the oxygen, just to simplify it. And there are many studies that show that plants do a whole lot better with increased levels of carbon dioxide.
Well, we're being told that carbon dioxide is the problem for global warming. What's the benefits if it's a problem on global warming? I mean, I don't understand. Are we supposed to want more CO2 so the plants do better so we get more oxygen? Or are we supposed to stop all CO2 emissions and cut it back as low as we can get it? What's the comparison there?
Well, the jury is really out on what causes climate change. There have been interglacial periods of time where there were no human beings around to create the global warming, but yet there has been warming and cooling over, let's say, millions of years. And so we find that even though the carbon dioxide that is created may cause global warming, what is it that would cause the CO2 levels to reach such a point to cause global warming? We need a certain amount of carbon dioxide in order to keep the planet warm enough to sustain life.
You've been a science teacher for most of your life, right? I guess one of the questions I have is when they go do ice cores and they go test little air pockets that have been buried deep in the ice for thousands and thousands of years, and they measure the CO2 levels, what's been happening over the history of time that's preserved in ice that we can tell the levels of carbon dioxide's gone up or down in relationship to the actual climate change that's been really happening?
Well, we find in examining these ice cores that they get from the polar areas that there are warming periods and cooling periods. You may recall, if you're old enough, back in 1979, there was a big furor about global cooling and how Earth was going to be destroyed because of global cooling. And now we have people trying to say the same thing about global warming. But they fail to realize that there are warming periods and cooling periods, in the period of Earth. When you go before 1,500 years ago, what did man do to cause the global warming? So the CO2 can cause global warming if it is warmed enough. When CO2 levels increase by another 2%, another 2 degrees of the Earth's climate, then we should get worried. But there was a lot of excitement when there was apparently a 1/10 of a degree warming of the Earth's surface. That's not enough to get worried about.
So some people say that it's not so much man causing the global warming as it is the actual natural orbit of the Earth and the tilt of the Earth as it goes around the sun. I guess every 23,000 years it changes and the distance gets oblong from the sun. That affects global warming more than man, maybe? I'm trying to find out where's the red flags coming from?
Well,
what's the real cause?
Well, one of the possibilities, because nobody has agreed to a definite answer, but the solar flares on the sun have to be one of the factors that can cause the global warming. The solar flares can be many times the size of the Earth. The Earth would appear as just a little dot in the midst of these huge nuclear explosions that occur on the sun. And when there's a great deal of solar activity, that can influence the warming of the Earth. There's an additional source also, and that is the function of the oceans. Mm-hmm. The Earth is mainly water, actually. There's a lot of ocean out there. Right. And what happens in the oceans and how they absorb the heat from the sun can be a major cause for warming or cooling, depending on just what the ocean is doing temperature-wise.
Wayne, we need to take a short commercial break. We'll be right back and continue talking about global warming and CO2 levels and what is the truth versus what is being propagandized. We'll be right back with more Liberty Town Hall. And welcome back to Liberty Town Hall. Wayne and I are discussing global warming. Wayne, is there a problem with global warming as a whole? I hear all the time about global warming, man-caused, man-caused, man-caused. Is there a real problem with global warming going on, first of all?
Well, a year ago, there was some speculation that there was some global warming going on because 2010 was a warming year. However, a couple weeks ago, the data was released for 2011 and 2012 through August. And it showed with this data that there has not been any global warming for the last 16 years. It's considered a neutral time. When you take a look at global warming, it means there is a trend. And so in following trends, you have to take data over a period of time. And many of the scientists agree that over a period of 15 years, you can come up with a trend. And so with the recent data, it shows that there is no global warming trend at the present time.
So there's been some short peaks and some short valleys in the temperature, but for the most part, for the last 15 years, it's stayed nice and flat and steady.
Right. With little bumps, it's been steady.
You were a professional teacher for a long time. Why are they teaching our kids that global warming is such a problem then? If you're saying we need CO2 more in the air because it's good for the plants, good for the animals, good for human beings to have more CO2, there's not a global warming problem. Why do they insist on keep teaching our children in schools that man's causing all this global warming and it's going to destroy the earth? Why is our kids being taught that then?
Well, there are certain personal agendas, and I really don't grasp how the teachers can, in good conscience, teach this stuff if they haven't been influenced by some of the politicians who are promoting a particular cause.
So who's benefiting from global warming then? From the propaganda of global warming then? Who's the real beneficiaries? Because to me, it doesn't seem like anybody's going to win unless you're trying to sell solar panels or something.
Well, or sell carbon offsets. That's
Cap
a
and
big
trade
deal.
issues.
Yes, if we can convince the people that there's really global warming and that it's caused by man, then we can accuse whoever causes this increase in CO2 to pay a penalty. And so factories, automobiles become a target. And so
the coal industry as a whole, the coal industry's almost been wiped out by the last 4 years of this administration's war on fossil fuels.
Yes.
So
and
it's all about tax money?
Well, not tax money, but personal money. There's a company, GM in London, which sells carbon offsets, and they are collecting millions and millions of dollars from
What do you mean
all
selling
of it.
carbon offsets?
Well,
what do you mean by that?
Okay. This group determines what they feel is an appropriate amount of carbon dioxide for a factory to be releasing.
Ooh.
And in excess of that amount, this group decides that they should pay a penalty and pay them a fee to locate plantations or whatever that will absorb that amount of carbon dioxide. So they would go to various parts of the world and contract to
So
maintain.
this is a foreign organization basically getting wealth from America and distributing it around the world with us.
Well, they don't distribute the wealth around the world. They put that in their pocket, but they try to probably contract very cheaply with areas that will keep the plants growing and not cut them down so that they will absorb carbon dioxide. And that way they charge the industries for these carbon offsets to basically a sin tax for producing the carbon dioxide.
And so a foreign company sets what should or should not be released and then globally redistributes it where it should be going, and they put the money in their pocket and they fund a political war and a propaganda war to get us all to buy into it.
Right.
Boy, that sounds like a good plan for America, doesn't it?
Oh, doesn't it?
And that goes into our school systems and teaches our kids these things?
That's what's going on. And this way, they have to do the propagandizing so that they get public opinion on their side. We can look at the automobile companies, for instance. They're all striving to get the lowest CO2 levels of any of the other vehicles so that they can be in conformity with this nonsense. Because if they are not, the propaganda machines will discredit those companies as bad for the environment. And there's enough people that believe in this that it could cause problems with the advertising. So companies go along with it. They pay the carbon offsets, or they cut back on CO2 and advertise it so that they can be called a good citizen.
Wow.
It's a scam.
Wayne, we have to take a quick break. When we come back, I'd like to ask you what we can do about the propaganda and real global warming issues and concerns when we return with more Liberty Town Hall. And welcome back to Liberty Town Hall. Wayne and I are discussing global warmings, whether it's a propaganda statement or if there's real concerns. Wayne, in all your years of being a teacher, did you teach the kids that global warming was a problem that was caused by man? Because that seems to be happening a lot in our schools. Because when kids come home, they tell us, this is what the problem is, really. And I'm wondering, as a teacher, how does that work?
Absolutely not. Times have changed, and for some reason, many of the teachers have believed the propaganda that's coming out of the propaganda mills. And they just need to realize what real science is all about. We have several people claiming to be scientists with big titles that carry on this myth, and they just don't want to come up with the truth of what's really happening. It's been a very successful brainwashing job that they have done.
Can I ask a dumb question? As I'm sitting here thinking, okay, if we send our kids to school to learn how to learn, even more importantly than the things they learn at a time, we want to teach them the skills of learning and moving forward. If our teachers aren't actually learning and studying and actually coming up with logical, scientific conclusions on these, then how can they expect to teach the kids how to really learn and question themselves?
That's a good point, Glenn. We possibly need to come up with some charter schools where teachers are going to be free to teach what is the correct thing to teach. Teachers are often being told what they have to teach in the classroom.
Who sets that? If teachers are being told they have to teach something, just blindly go out there and cover this textbook, who is setting that agenda for what they get taught?
Well, basically their Board of Education. I went to the Board of Education where my children were going a number of years ago to complain about some of the things they were demanding being taught in the schools. And I find that my thoughts fell on deaf ears because they were being compensated by a condom company to teach the things that they were teaching.
So even condoms are being, I guess, power play money, agenda-moving people are putting money into the system to get the boards to go along with condoms being distributed or whatnot?
Remember that the people on the Board of Education are elected people, and they can be influenced by others. And it's quite often that the people with the right ideas don't have the motivation to get involved with politics because it has had such a bad name. But we need the people that are good people, moral people, people that want the truth taught in the schools to be the ones to run for the boards of education so that they can oversee what's going on in the school system and make sure that what is being taught is what is the important things for the students to be learning. Next to them are the administrators that they appoint, and the Board of Education is responsible for oversight for what these administrators are doing in the schools and therefore in the classrooms.
Wayne, if I wanted to find out what the real facts were on global warming, where's the best place for me to go look? Let's say I just wanted to put a packet together on global warming, take it down to my school board meeting, and bring up the issue with them and say, why are we teaching our kids this when here's the facts? Where's the best way to get a packet of facts?
Well, drroyspencer.com is one place to go for information. I was watching the global warming or the global temperature on his website, and several months ago I felt that it was showing a neutral trend, that it wasn't warming, and the recent data confirms what I was seeing on his site. So that is one of the places that one could go for more information. Also, I have a blog on my website where I post some information as well.
So the information is out there. It is available for us. I guess
it is.
The people that want common sense brought back into their school districts really need to take an active role in who's elected on their school board and then bring these issues to public forums at the school board meetings, I guess is the best way to address this, right?
That is correct. The board members need to be informed that the public is informed, and they are not going to put up with a lot of this miss science, if you will.
Miss science, yeah.
We need the truth in the classroom.
Well, Wayne, we're out of time today. on today's show. Please come talk to us again about global warming, and we certainly appreciate having you on the show.
Thank you very much, Glenn. It's been a pleasure being with you today.
Again, I'd like to thank you for all your years of dedication to these children, and we're glad to have you out there fighting for us. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Well, you've got your homework assignment. There's a lot to talk about. I hope you're going to be getting on your search engine and start checking out what you've heard today to find out for yourself what's going on with global warming and become more educated. Or if you are, it reiterates probably what you've already been finding out. Grateful to talk to you today, and I hope you'll join us next time, and also join us on libertytownhall.com.
But a constitutional government, once changed from freedom, can never be restored. Liberty, once lost, is lost forever. John Adams.